everyone. So this song is one called Broken Vessels that I'm sure most of you have heard. His pieces broken and scattered, mercy gathered, mended and full. Empty handed, but not one. Seeking, have been set free, have been set free. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saves a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes. Laying yourself down. Raising up the broken to life. Take our failures, you take our weakness, you set our treasures in jars of clay. So take this heart, Lord, I'll be your vessel, the world to see. Your love in me, oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saves a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes. Laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saves a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes. Laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life.
What is going on, Legacy Youth? We are happy to bring you another video, and we hope that it encourages you during this time. So, the past few weeks, we've been talking about some sort of sad topics, really, but again, they're truthful. I mean, it's so good to talk about it because I think we need to, but at the same time, they're never super fun, right? So we've been talking about doubt, disappointment, and we did what you consume consumes you. Now, for me personally, I think those go in an order. I believe that when you have a disappointing time in your life, like something bad happens or something sucks, you start to doubt people, things, circumstances, right, yourself. Then all of a sudden, because we feel bad and sad and all these things, we start to turn and consume things that make us feel better. Games, food, binge watching shows, right? We turn to things that sort of numb us to get us to be like, okay, this feels okay for the moment. But again, it's not a permanent fix, it's just sort of temporary, and we're just trying to get through to the other side. And so today, though, we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about something a little more encouraging, which is hope. Okay, and hope, I believe, has a name, and his name is Jesus, because Jesus came at a time when every single person was hopeless. And so we're going to look at a couple things today in the book of Romans, which I'm really excited to do. And we're going to talk about sort of like three main points. So the first one is, what is hope? Just as a general concept or an idea. Why is it important? And then the final thing is, how do we do it? How do we sort of leverage hope in a way that sort of gets us to move forward? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's start off with what is hope. Last week we actually had a great discussion, and we talked about how hope is sort of future bound, right? The idea of hope is it's not that you don't hope for things in the past, right? That doesn't make any sense. You don't really hope for things right. Well, sometimes you might hope for things like right in the immediate future, but like things that you already have in your life, you don't really hope for. They're already there. And so we sort of think in the future, I hope that this happens, or I hope that this changes, right? So hope is something that is future bound. We talked about on Wednesday was that our souls actually yearn for heaven because of the fact that, like, whenever things go wrong on this earth, like something really tragic happens or some big pain, there's something deep down inside of us that like, that's wrong, like that's not right, like that shouldn't happen. Now, why is that there? I don't believe it's because we've been taught. I believe it's because God, through his Spirit, sort of like sends us upward. Like, we want to be in heaven. We want to be somewhere where everything is perfect and everyone is alive and everyone is happy and joyful. Like, we desire that. And again, there's no like earthly explanation for that. We have no sort of way of understanding why we're always looking, and why do we want to live forever, right? Why is there something in us that wants to live forever, right? Again, I believe that's heaven. I believe Jesus is like, yeah, because there is a place where that's going to happen. And so I believe that's the whole, what hope is. Why is it important? Really simply, I think because without hope, we sit still. We don't move. We sit in the agony and the pain. And then oftentimes that turns us into bitter and angry and people that just go through life just not even looking forward to anything. We're sort of stuck in this menial existence. And it's so dark. I think that's what it is. It's so dark. So hope is important because I think without hope, we sort of just sit and wait and we allow life to happen to us, right? I believe God has given us sort of the will and the ability to go through things with him together to actually make life better. And now we're going to get into the how do we do it, right? The practicality of like, okay, so yeah, hope is there. It's future bound, right? We understand that hope is sort of moving forward. It's something that Jesus sort of gives to us as a gift. And so we're going to talk about sort of how to do that. And we're going to look in the book of Romans today. I'm really excited. I love the book of Romans. Super, super good. So what happens is Paul steps onto the pages of history as Saul of Tarsus, right? He was a guy who was persecuting Jesus and his followers, or Jesus's followers, I should say. And then he gets converted. Jesus literally has a meeting with him on the road to Damascus and changes him into Paul, and he becomes one of the greatest evangelists ever. So remember, a guy who was going after Jesus realizes he's wrong, and Jesus says, "There is hope for you yet. I will make you into the most amazing evangelist ever, and you're going to spread my message and the gospel everywhere." And so he does that. And so this book of Romans is a letter to the Romans, and the Romans were persecuting Christians all throughout Rome. It was a terrible time to be a Christian, and again they were getting persecuted left and right, and killed and burned and put in the arena, and there was crazy things happening. So these people had all kinds of reasons not to hope. They could have been like, yeah, later Jesus, because they were just like, this is terrible, like why stay? But again, their hope outweighed the darkness around them, which is why they stuck through it, which is such a crazy thought. Because like I said, we are, of course we're scared of, corona, of getting corona. But we're not scared of like some guy coming to our house with a legion of soldiers, with swords, right? Like that's scary in sort of an immediate sense for these people, and they were living that kind of stuff. They're going to be dragons and yada yada. So let's dive in. So we are going to be looking at Romans 8:18, and then we're going to hop over to verse 24 after I think we get to 22, I think. So Romans 8:18. He says, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. Now I love that because I think again, so oftentimes in the darkness when things hurt and it's terrible, because it feels safer to just sit still and kind of like, I'm not going to allow myself to be hit by anything else. We just sort of wait and we don't do anything, right? I love that it says, for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. What does that mean? I believe that we as Christians have a calling on our lives. Every single one of us has a calling to go out and do. And I remember hearing this line a long time ago where love is action, right? Love is not a word, right? Jesus didn't shout with his, godly megaphone, I love you. Good luck with all the bad stuff. He didn't do that. He sent his son. He did. He went first, right? And so one of the things that I think will help us in the application of hope is becoming hope. Now, when I say that, I think not like, again, us as a human can, change the entire world. But I believe that through us, Jesus can use us to serve and love people, to bring hope into this world. Oftentimes, we're sort of waiting for the circumstance to change to then sort of switch gears and be like, oh, I'm hopeful things will get better. Versus being, how can I serve people that gives them hope that things are already getting here? I am sort of, it's one of those things that like, again, we are meant to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And again, that's not just some nice metaphor. It's like, it's a literal, like, we're supposed to be out there loving people and bringing hope. And it's the strangest thing, because when we start to pour hope and courage into other people, there's something that happens deep down inside of us that we don't even understand, that we're like, this is the most amazing feeling ever. And it's simple things. So our church has a couple ways of doing that, and during youth group, we're actually going to hopefully talk about a couple of those things, of how we can be servants of Christ and bring hope to people, whether it's in the form of a phone call, a container of soup, some groceries, right? So one of the things that I think we need to sort of, it's kind of hard, but it's to get out of our sort of head space and to look outside of us. Because think about it, if the future is always outward, right? If the future is always forward, then hope can't be like just here. Hope has to be constantly pushing and reaching out towards people. Because think about it, isn't that what it's all about? If someone's hanging off a cliff, right, and they have one hand here and they're about to fall, right? You don't want someone to come up and be like, you all right? And the person's like, no. And you're like, you'll be all right. You don't want that. You're like, reach out your hand, grab my hand, right? And the hand is hope, right? That person's reaching out for you and being like, take my hand. And again, that's what Jesus has done for us. And that's what we can do to other people. And oftentimes I think it's crazy because I don't know why it happens. And it's happened to me so often where people like have changed my life dramatically, right? Have shown me Jesus in so many ways. And my response is thanks. And that's it, right? They have shown me who hope is. And in turn, I just stood still. And I didn't replicate that. And think about it. If every person was like, if I got reached out to by one person and then that person still continued to reach out to others, now I become a disciple of Christ and I start to reach out to other people as well. All of a sudden, hope is spreading like wildfire. And so legacy, that's one of the things that we're going to encourage you to try and do is to not sit and wait, but find ways to be hope in this world, to be love in action. Because again, that's what it is. He loves us and he wants us to love others. Because really, when you think about it, God's two greatest commandments are love God, love people, right? It's always sad because we're like, well, where's our self in there? He's like, well, he loved you already, like we're selfish. But love God, love people, right? And by loving people, we love God, right? So we're going to encourage you to do that. I hope that this message encourages you and sort of helps you ponder as to what hope can look like for you. Like, how can you be hope in other people's lives? And because you become hope to other people, I guarantee you'll be more hopeful. Okay? Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you on Wednesday.